Should teenagers be tried as adults? Is reform and rehabilitation for juvenile killers justice? Or are there some crimes that demand punishment and public protection? Above all, he was 15, nice, polite, loved nature and water sports, came from a tightly knit, affluent family who one morning, as dawn rose above his picturesque Alice Lakeshore home, he murdered execution style, leaving one sole survivor, his 11-year-old sister, who escaped her brother's rampage by playing dead. This is Crime Bites. I'm Carrie Drobin, criminal defense attorney, multi-published award-winning true crime author, and the host and creator of Crime Stands Still. Should teens who slaughter their families deserve special consideration because they're juveniles? This guy's charged with 5 counts of aggravated murder in the slayings of his parents, Mark and Sarah Humiston, 2 brothers, ages 9 and 13, and his 7-year-old sister. He's also charged with 1 count of attempted murder for shooting and wounding his 11-year-old sister. This teen's actions were cold, calculated, diabolical. He called 911 from his bathroom and told a story that his 13-year-old brother shot his whole family and committed suicide. Too bad for him, his surviving sister, who escaped through a bedroom window, identified him as the killer. Falls City is a picturesque bedroom community nestled on the shores of Alice Lake in Washington state. It's a place that feels more like a postcard than the setting of an unspeakable crime. With a population just over 2,000, Falls City is the kind of place people move to for peace, security, and the promise of a simple, wholesome life. Crime is almost non-existent, the sort of place where people rarely lock their doors at night. You know what I'm talking about. Yet behind the closed doors of one beautiful lakeside home, horror unfolded. And what started as a peaceful evening turned into a nightmarish morning. The teen said it was his father's silver Glock handgun, the one he kept in a small lockbox, the one he put by the front door so he could bring it with him to work. The father, who worked as an electrical engineer, who was well loved, was the only one who knew the combination to the lockbox. This was a teen who, according to his public defenders, enjoyed mountain biking and fishing and had no criminal history. Not only did he slaughter his family, his mother, for God's sakes, but he also staged the murders on his slain 13-year-old brother, whom he shot twice, once in the cheek and once behind his right ear. Now, I'm sure he didn't stop to think how that might logistically be impossible, how rare it was for anyone trying to commit suicide to shoot themselves twice, but that's what he did. And then he wiped the Glock and placed it in his brother's left hand, the non-dominant hand, which if you're going to commit suicide is even more improbable, but who cares about details. Let's talk about matricide, the act of a child killing their mother, a son no less. It's extremely rare. It accounts for less than 1% of all homicides in the United States, where the victim-offender relationship is known. So what propels a son to murder his mother? Notable similar cases, I have to mention the Menendez brothers here, right? Who killed their mother to save her from their father's abuse. The fact that the Humiston teen killed his mother first is significant. And while motive is not a factor in homicide prosecutions, it's one defense attorneys hang on, and one we as the public want to know the answer to, right? Why? So the factors involved in a handful of cases in this century that involved matricide also involved unsurprisingly severe mental health issues, abuse, neglect, dysfunctional family dynamics. I mean, this killing was premeditated. It was calculated. It was planned, which makes it even more horrific. It might have involved psychopathic traits, personality disorders like antisocial personality disorder, aka psychopath. So a defense attorney representing the Humiston teen is going to look for backstory. Right? What could possibly have gone wrong in this kid's life? He lived in an idyllic, isolated lakeshore community. He was homeschooled. Was it mental illness? Was it influence of relationships? I mean, did he want to run away with a girlfriend who his parents disapproved? Was there parental control and conflict at play? His lawyers are likely going to review possible ACE factors, right? Adverse childhood experiences as mitigation. I mean, why should we care? Because we have a human need to understand this massacre, so that we can process the horror and know the warning signs, right? We're looking for prevention. Why do his lawyers care? Because they want to humanize him to the jury or the judge. They want to argue that he deserves leniency. So these are the ACE hallmarks: abuse, right? Physical, emotional, sexual, neglect, lack of emotional support, substance abuse, divorce, separation, well, we know that didn't happen. Mental illness, domestic violence, right? Witnessing domestic violence can lead to a desensitization or normalizing of violent solutions to problems. We don't really have any evidence that happened. Peer influence, social acceptance, trauma, educational challenges, right? Academic struggles. But here's the problem for the defense. An execution-style killing tells a lot about the killer. It's very revealing. It implies significant premeditation, an element of control, and often a chilling absence of emotional connection, aka psychopath or psychopathic traits, right? This kid is likable, charming, calm, polite, nice, the way Ted Bundy was or Son of Sam was, right? This is a teen who is desensitized to violence. His relationship to the victims also a tell. It can either suggest that the act is highly impersonal, like a contract killing, or as in this case, intensely personal, such as an act of betrayal. If we didn't know the teen did this, execution killings are the hallmarks of organized crime, gangs, terrorism. I mean, they're used to send a message. It's a demonstration of power. It serves as a warning or used to maintain control within a group. Execution-style killings tell us that the killer is organized. It's someone who plans and takes careful steps to avoid detection. It suggests a higher level of criminal sophistication. So what do we know so far about the Humiston teen and why he did it? Well, the only thing we know is that he was having academic troubles, but he was homeschooled. And he was the only family member who apparently knew the combination of the lockbox containing the gun. It's a tragedy compounded by the chilling realization that without intervention, these American nightmares often remain hidden until it's too late. So back to my question at the beginning. Does this teen deserve to be tried as a juvenile or as an adult? So at 15, he's considered a minor, a child, right? And the human brain continues to develop well into a person's mid-20s. We kind of know that, particularly in areas responsible for impulse control and decision-making. So this could suggest a diminished capacity for full adult responsibility. Juvenile court systems are designed to rehabilitate. Given the teen's young age, there is an opportunity for psychological intervention, therapy, education that may help reform behavior and reintegrate this teen into society, right? But do we want to? Does he deserve a lesser sentence? Is reform the right approach, right? A juvenile sentence would likely mean that confinement until the age of 21 or a slightly extended period. And this would allow this teen to receive age-appropriate support, programs aimed at rehabilitation rather than punishment, blah, 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 blah. So if there is evidence of trauma, mental health disorders, or external stressors that impacted this teen's decision-making, this might also be an argument for handling the case in a juvenile context to provide this sort of targeted support and therapy, right? Allow the teen to remain in the juvenile system, might be seen as more humane and less stigmatizing in terms of reintegration into the community after serving time. But does he deserve that chance, right? I mean, that depends if you believe people like him can be rehabilitated. So I would argue in this case that he can't and that he doesn't deserve it. And here's why. So the premeditated nature and scale of this crime, killing multiple family members, including young siblings and his mom, demonstrates a level of violence that speaks to a pathology that cannot be changed or cured. The brutality and execution style nature of the killing suggests an adult level culpability, right? I would argue that if released, he remains a danger to the public. Again, due to his pathology. There is no cure for psychopathy. There is no rehabilitation. There are only periods of remission. So this may sound strange coming from a defense attorney like myself, but in certain cases, the punishment has to reflect the gravity of the crime. So if this teen is tried as a juvenile, he doesn't get life in prison. His crimes showed a level of skill and calculation and diabolical manipulation, framed his younger brother, for goodness sakes. Contrast this with the chaotic nature of the Menendez brothers, who shot in a spray of gunfire. Granted, we don't know enough about this teen yet to know that, I'm just speculating. I'm sitting in that jury box without hearing any evidence. I'm judging him. But come on, we all are, right? I'm analyzing the crime scene and I'm speculating about this kid's pathology based on the crime scene. So in effect, I'm playing CSI, right? I'm looking at the damning facts and I'm trying to build a profile. I just don't think this kid deserves protection or coddling from the law. So clearly I shouldn't be his lawyer, right? But that said, if I was his lawyer, I wouldn't have to like him or believe him, but I'd have to zealously defend him. I'd have to defend his constitutional right to a fair trial, and that's what I've done. That I can do, right? I can analyze all of the factors I've shown you here. So let me just be clear something up here. When you're a public defender, you don't get to choose who you represent. You're assigned a case at random. And sometimes you believe your client, and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you hate your client. But defense attorneys are not replicas of their clients, right? They don't deserve that hate. Their job is not to get their client off. It's to ensure their client has a fair proceeding. And that's my plug for defense attorneys today, who do an incredibly difficult job under the worst of circumstances. So this teen's methodical, cruel approach to the crimes indicates his cognitive ability to understand the consequences, right? Pointing toward a level of maturity that would justify that he be tried as an adult. I think it's critical to set a legal precedent for pursuing adult charges in heinous crimes like this, especially those involving multiple victims and multiple family members and your mother. Some crimes demand punishment, not rehabilitation, and not all juveniles can or should be reformed. What do you think? Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, please share and subscribe to my channel and check out my website, carriedrobin.com. Meanwhile, stay vigilant, stay informed, and as always, stay safe.